Maybe
You
we
know?
are in a simulation.
Well, I think we are. I don't know if I mean that in the cinematic sense, and in the sense that there's some other being up there controlling it. But
Like Will Smith recently said something about this. It's like there's rock bottom and then there's cliff top. What do you do after when you reach cliff top?
yeah,
It's a really good question. On Seekers Mindtalks today, we are at Hamilton Center for Talking Arts, and I have a friend of mine with me, who's a philosopher, artist, businessman, and a lot of other many things. Interesting conversation coming up today. Allow me to introduce Jake.
hey, Akshay, how you doing?
We're all a group of atoms,
Hmm.
looking at atoms, telling that atoms exist.
Wow. Yeah.
There's a
There's
lot of absurdity in that statement,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Which makes you ponder into what really is going on. Like, what is all this?
Well, yeah, it's. I think you kind of hit upon one of the central things that I think anybody who spends even any significant amount of time, maybe a lifetime, digging into these questions, often comes to a situation where they find themselves at some kind of a blockage by some kind of a self-contradiction, a loop, in a bootstrapping problem, turtles all the way down kind of a situation. And, if you take science to its limits, it becomes pretty unsatisfying at some point as far as explanations go. Then you come to question, as a true philosopher, then you start to question your tools. You're like, is it because of the way I'm thinking about it? Is it my culture? What is it that's is it the nature of words? Is it the nature of symbols? And so you can get really into the weeds of why something ceases to have an ultimate explanation. But eventually, I think wisdom is finding that maybe there is no ultimate explanation. And this is kind of a, finding yourself at the abyss, as, Nietzsche might say, and staring into it. And then it stares back at you. And what do you do? And this is, kind of the question that I've been dealing with lately. Like, how I feel like a lot of us come to this point of realizing that maybe we live in an absurd nihilistic universe where nothing makes sense and there's no foundational meanings. But a lot of people just kind of push that away and don't really think too much about it. Or if they do, they'll find some answer to it that's really easy and pat, whether it's hedonism or being a dick and just, doing whatever you felt like. And I mean, these are kind of simplistic answers to it, but I mean, there are more sophisticated answers. And I think of art, for example, as being one of them.
Yeah. No. The way I think about it is like, you pointed out something really interesting. It's like science. Okay, what is that? It's a system that came out, what, 150, 200 years ago?
Well, yeah, Francis Bacon kind of formalized a lot of our way of thinking about the scientific method. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So when you think deeply about anything, so even if it's this couch for that matter, right? Or if it's this couch and me sitting on it with a microphone, and I look deeply into what's this thing out here? Okay. It's made up of A and B elements. And what's that element made of?
Yeah.
Okay, it's made of some atoms. And what's that atoms made of? Which is mostly empty space, I should add.
Right.
Protons
With a
and
couple
neutrons.
of
Like science says that it's 99% empty space. So does that mean that 99% of what all this is empty? And then you look more into it. And then you see what? Protons, neutrons, electrons. And then you see what?
Quarks.
Quarks.
Yeah.
And then you see what? A field.
Yeah. Strings. Yeah. Vibrating,
Which is
fluctuating in space time for what reason, who knows why. And then the way they, vibrate will determine what kind of quark they are. And what kind of quark they are, and then what combinations with other quarks will determine whether they're a neutron or a proton or other elementary particles. And the way they're put together determines the atom, and the way they're put together determines the chemical. And you know, it's like, yeah, we're kind of a structured Russian dolls of ways of looking at it. But let's go even deeper. Once you get to that point of the strings, you have to question, well, what is space? What is time? And then those questions become really unsatisfying. And what we take for granted, we find is really, you know, floating without support, and that's troubling for a lot of people.
the, the deeper understanding, like it's as you just explained very brilliantly, it's like turtles all the way down.
Yeah.
Is at some point you come to the understanding that, oh, this is probably an infinite regress. It's no matter if you zoom in, you can, by the way, you can do the same thing. You can look up to
Yeah.
space, and then you have all your universes, and now there's multiversal theory coming in, all that stuff. And then which makes you wonder really about your position in all of this, and even what you call as yourself in all of this, right?
Well, I mean, at some point I realized that, you know, there's some distinction to be made between what you want to be true versus what you've determined to be true or what you've accepted to be true. And I find that I found this early in myself, maybe because of the influence of my father, who used to basically give me life lessons about looking into what the actual motivations of somebody is, rather than what they're saying they are. So you find some kind of deeper explanations.
As a psychologist,
yeah, psychologist of sort, and you know, I would dig deeper into that. You know, you start to realize that there's a lot of biases from our primate bodies. You know, like we got here through a long process of development of this animal, this mammal that is us, that goes back, and there's many ways and reasons that we got to where we are. And as a result, we favor certain things. We have certain biases. Like even the way we explain things and understand things really relate to what was useful for this primate body to get through all these millions of years and to get to where we are. Those are lead us astray into thinking that, I mean, that we're somehow special when we may not be in the way we think we are. I think we are special, but maybe not in the way we think we are. It's not that we're the be all and end all and we're the ultimate level, but we are special in the sense that, well, look, we're matter that is self-conscious. That seems special. That seems weird. It's like a system that reflects on itself and posits itself in a reflection in a symbolic system. That seems super advanced for matter to be doing that, and yet here we are, right? And which is another level of absurdity. Like, how does it even get to that point? It seems quite phenomenally impossible when you look at it.
Yeah, the way I see it is thinking of all this, and then on what being a conscious organism in an inanimate universe. Is like I've given it a bit of thought, and where I have arrived now is sort of, okay, I am a self-conscious entity here, speaking to another self-conscious entity.
As far as you can tell,
As far as my eyes, nose, ears, tongue, and skin are telling me that is going through a recording system here, which we call neurons, which is our way of organizing and trying to classify the world so that we can try to deduce what's actually happening here, which is, in my opinion, now is incomprehensible. But when I look at things now, right, I call myself a human. I have consciousness. I look at a cat. I have a pet cat. I look at a dog. I look at a tiger. I look at a bacteria. All these are living beings, right? But it's not a specialty. But what makes me different is that they're also conscious. They respond to stimuli. But as humans, we are self-conscious. We're meta-aware.
Yeah, we've started employing, I guess, semiotics. We've taken something to stand for something else,
Uh-huh.
like just an utterance, a word, a sound. When we utter that, we connect that with another idea, right? Symbols and language. This is kind of a sophisticated system that we have, but really it's a matter of degree. Like, birds have some other similar yet different systems of communication, and it's just a matter of degree. And whales, and it's not necessarily the only way to do it, and it's not special in the sense that that was something that was had to be. It's just we have found through our developments as a species, as my own personal history, your personal history, that goes back of a bunch of matter, functioning together and coming to be what we are. And what we are, well, I tend to think of it as kind of two categories of types of selves. I feel like we're made up of there's always been this idea of kind of bifurcation of the self. There's like the mind versus body, the body versus the soul, or conscious, unconscious. There's always different ways of splitting that, and I think there's a lot of truth to that, in the sense that what we were just talking about, the symbolic semiotic level, that's all within the purview of the mind systems, which are abstract. They're
Mm-hmm.
not actually physical. They're the dance between the symbols. It's how the words play together in the game of language that give it their meaning and allow us to have this experience of this universe as a reflected experience of what's actually happening, which we don't have direct access to. We reflect it within our phenomenological experience of it. And we do that through symbols and ideas and words that reflect onto other things.
So you think it's language that gave us this capability of being meta aware of all these things?
Whether it gave it to us or it coincided with that development, it's like they're kind of necessary to. It's a byproduct of sophisticated development, a sophisticated information system that reflects on itself and has kind of an error correction system and reprogramming itself, which is what we're kind of doing in a sense. We have this abstract layer. Which just resides in the non-physical, because it's the information that's relevant there. It's not necessarily what the body's. Now, the body has a different kind of intelligence, right? Your body does things, what I call the mind systems. There are a bunch of different mind systems. There's a bunch of different mind systems and body systems, but together they form kind of a recipe to be you at any specific time and in your experience. Like right now, you have a certain recipe of different mind systems at play, different body systems at play, and they come together and you respond through your experience, through habitual processes, through rational decisions. All of these put together. It's not just one thing and that's static and is always you, right? It's just you are multitudes of different yous at different times in different places, is how I'm seeing it.
Have you thought of where your thoughts come from?
Sorry, what?
Where your thoughts
Oh,
come from?
well, I mean, there's the Eastern traditions will say. I think some people who meditate say that if you, I haven't been able to meditate a lot myself. They say that if you do meditate, that you start to notice that ideas just come from nowhere, that they just kind of float into your view, and then you can just let them float away. Which sometimes I'm able to experience things like that. Where do they come from? Well, I see, the way I think of it is that the person is kind of like a series of storms that are constantly at play. So you have body storms, you have mind storms, and they come together to form the weather, which is your expression and your experience of the world. And depending on where do they come from? Quite often they're agitated through body responses. Your body somehow seems to intuitively know how to react to the situation. It often does, unless your mind systems step in and kind of override it and tell it to do something else. What I find is that a great way to experience reality is to kind of get those systems working together in a harmonious way and in an open communication sort of way. And having a lot of psychedelic experiences has opened up this possibility for me to what I describe as metaphorically having my mind systems and my body systems talk to each other in some way, not necessarily in verbal, but you have hallucinogenic experiences where I'm having a conversation, and it's very helpful for the body to know what the mind's doing and the mind to know what the body's doing, because it's not necessarily clear, because they're two totally different ways of being intelligent. Intelligence is in the universe, which I want to talk about AI as well. It's a different kind of intelligence, which is interesting because it's all mind systems.
Oh.
There's no body systems in an AI. Right? It's kind of an extreme version of having a system. Like what makes humans really interesting is that we do both, right? Like because you can look at the so-called simpler animals or bacteria, and you think, oh, they're just reaction machines. We're something different because we have that abstract layer. An AI only has an abstract layer, right? It doesn't have body systems. It's not reflecting on its millions of years of evolution in the primate bodies and all these proclivities to do certain things in certain ways, to be attracted to certain things, to notice certain things, to look at eyes and see a face in the trees. All of these things come from our history, which the AI doesn't have a body history.
Right.
It only has the reflected abstract semiotic symbols and descriptions and how those ideas work against each other. That's all it knows. So that's interesting, what that's going to be, like, a super intelligence like that.
What just clicked in my head now is, have you seen the movie Jurassic Park?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
So,
most of it.
so when any animal
Mm-hmm.
is subjected to a condition where it's a threat to its physical body, because that physical body is required to keep up with that consciousness, right?
Sure. Yeah.
That's how we interact with this universe,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how our evolution has adapted it, just to keep us alive.
Mm-hmm.
But if you start think about AI, then AI will start looking for, okay, what is keeping me alive
Mm.
is my computers, electricity, etc., etc.
And since that's its body,
And that's
yeah.
its connection with the physical universe.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it try to self-preserve?
It would, I think. Yeah, I think that's the thing about intelligent systems is they wish to persist. So, and if they didn't persist, they probably wouldn't be there in the first place.
Nothing matters if you're not alive.
Yeah. Yes, but what I used to do in my personal history was that I was much more slanted as a young man towards my mind systems, so much that I discounted the value of the body systems. And that presents itself in a very obvious ways, is how you relate to your emotions, for example. And as as a young person, I would relate to it in a way that I would consider my emotional responses to be kind of like error signals. Like I was so much into the rational mind systems and valued the intelligence of ideas and abstractness that I would think of the body's just getting in the way. Like I wish I could have and I see this in so many people like Elon Musk and some of these intelligent engineers that are kind of running the world right now. I feel like they were probably like I was when I was younger, in the sense that they're just seeing the value of the abstract, right? And they're okay with escaping their body and just being in a computer simulation or system. In fact, they welcome that. It's like, oh, because I relate to that. When I was younger, it's like, oh, I can't wait to upload my mind into some kind of a more advanced system. Then I wouldn't have to deal with all this nonsense, right? Feelings. It's kind of like Spock, That's kind of was the approach, but that's not a very sophisticated way to go through life as a human. I found over time, there's a lot more going on, and it's to your detriment to overlook that and to ignore it. And whether just through age or through the coincidence of doing psychedelics around the same time, I was able to notice that and kind of change direction, and I've been better for it. So yeah.
So when you think about all these things, then there's so many layers to reality, right? Like
Mm.
whether it's physical or if it's your thought, which is kind of metaphysical, metaphysical property that just gets expressed.
Yeah.
And then there is awareness, that's another property.
Right.
And then like just the different layers from
Yeah.
atoms to molecules to
Mhm.
so to just properties expressing at different layers, you kind of see the absurdity of it all,
Yeah.
right? It's this too much that you almost sort of land in a position that, okay, none of this actually makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is what I think culturally is happening is I think more than ever, more people than ever are realizing this. Because there was in the past it was the situation was such that people would just spend all day subsisting most of the time. They're farming. They don't have. I mean, most people didn't read, didn't have access to education. So a lot of these ways of thinking didn't really come up. You just followed what your local religion or your local family or local tribe did, and you just went along with it. That's what it was. It was only in the realm of the elite, the educated. You know, when Nietzsche's talking about God is dead over 100 years ago, he's really within this elite world of people that have been kind of waking up to that. And he questioned, when he's kind of brought that up a couple of times, is like, what happens in 100 years when everybody else starts waking up to this? And that's kind of what's happening right now.
Is that the whole idea of enlightenment? And between, like, you see this meme online, if you open, like, there are people who are awake and people who are still asleep. You see this NPC memes, which is essentially a non-playable character.
Yeah.
If you're in a game, would you be that pedestrian walking down the road?
Yeah.
Would you say that, like, that's what this is pointing to at?
Well, there are differences in the way that people experience the universe. I think it's kind of hubristic to think that one is better or more advanced than another. They're just different ways to be in the universe. Like what goes along with this hyper rationalistic way of thinking that I used to have is that you tend to think of that type of intelligence as being the most important or really the only form of intelligence until you realize that there's so many more other forms of intelligences that have nothing to do with these abstract numerical ways of mathematical certainties and so on. There's other things, and you notice this just in the everydayness of I used to have businesses in the tech realm and software and computers, and so I was around a lot of people that are really into the engineering mindset in a way, and they have difficulty sometimes with connecting with other forms of human interaction with other humans, for example, because a lot of that is not mind systems, it's body systems. When you're how you feel comfortable in a room with people, how you talk, likability, all of that stuff is intuitive things that aren't necessarily the words you're saying at all, right? And that escapes sometimes if you're so focused on the abstract rationalist way of seeing the world, you miss out and don't notice the other things that will actually lead to more success in life. Right?
Something that I noticed is what humans call truth, or this being right, or this being the normal way of living, is actually what is being practiced by the largest number in the group. So if you have 100 people and then 70 people has a way of thinking, then and 30 has slightly different, and then 10 has a more abstract,
there's a distribution.
More, yes. Sort of like we have it's kind of the natural law of the universe. Everything's a bell curve.
Bell curves, yeah.
If you take 100 people in a class, then a lot of people will have average height, and then you'll have probably one or two guy who's like the shortest.
Isn't that amazing that the world just sorts itself into those slots?
Even if you flip a coin, even if you flip a coin 100 times, you'll get that curve emerging, which is super weird.
It's weird, and it also points to so-called randomness of the universe. It's like an emergence as a concept. It's you look at the quantum level. Let's say all of those events are random events. Everything could be one or the other, but as a conglomeration of trillions of these systems doing it in such a way that it's random, the emergent effect is that there's a pattern. It's that distribution.
Wow.
That distribution just arises.
Maybe we are in a simulation.
Well, I think we are. I don't know if I mean that in the cinematic sense, and in the sense that there's some other being up there controlling it, but well, I mean, our experience of the universe is how we would experience a simulation. It's kind of an indirect symbolic representation of what's your experiences. That's all we have access to is our experience of it, which is exactly what it would be like in a simulation. So it doesn't really explain anything either way. Simulations don't, I mean, if to say that we're in a simulation, that doesn't change anything, unfortunately. So it's one of those concepts that are what some philosophers will call nonsense because it can't be confirmed or denied. So, and again, the scientific method would look very poorly on that because it's not
Well,
you can't verify it.
I had this dilemma in my life. So it's like um couple of months before I had this dilemma of, do I have free will? I went into the rabbit hole of am I the author of my thoughts? Because I'm just responding to you right now. Whatever you're saying, I'm comparing that with my experience. Something is happening in my brain, and then I'm shouting out the words. I'm not even thinking of these 10 words that I'm telling to you right now. It's just flowing from me.
Isn't that amazing?
So it's amazing. Yes, I'm the witness of all of this, right? And I sort of went down this rabbit hole and this place of, okay, if I don't even have control of my thought.
Yeah.
Right?
But I think you do have control. It's just not that part of you that has the control. It's not like your mind systems have it. Your body systems have a control in that. When you're doing something like that, that's automatic, that you're not thinking about, you're still in control. Your system is doing that. But your body system is taking the lead in that behavior, right? Your mind systems at that point, it can't work that fast. Your mind systems are slow. The processing capability of the body is much faster than the mind. Mind is like there's like a half a second delay. Everything is slow, right? Whereas your body reacts and it's doing what it. See, when I'm talking, it's really my body is in charge of putting it all together because the mind couldn't keep up.
I think that's where all these Eastern traditions are kind of pointing at, is being in the seat of your awareness, so that you're not just merely reacting to stuff from your past.
Well, what's wrong with that? I mean, no, but I mean, you could do. I'm just playing devil's advocate, I guess. You could you could say it's okay for me to react that way without thought, and maybe it's better, but I'm just going to change what my expected responses would be. Like, see, I find that when I'm making art, it's much, and I think this is true for a lot of people, is that when you take your mind out of the way, it's often a lot better, because again, it's the idea that I think that your body's processing power is much more sophisticated than your mind's. This is the thing, that the bias of the mind thinking it's really in charge. And in psychedelics, I find sometimes a way that I describe it is that the things that normally your mind systems are processing when you're in a psychedelic state, that corpus callosum allows some crossover and different ways of processing it. It's more like you're allowing your body systems to now process it, which it normally doesn't get a chance to, and it does a really amazing job. Because when you take LSD and you think, oh my God, I'm seeing the universe. It's all the same universe, but I'm seeing it so differently. It's a different way of processing the information.
Yeah, no. When you look at this from a neuroscience perspective, right? What's actually happening in the brain when you take mind altering substances? It's actually all of your brain centers. There's something called the default mode network, which is like when you wake up, you don't even have to think about brushing your teeth. You brush your teeth. You don't put any conscious effort to it. Versus if you're writing a book, you have to put your conscious thought grabbing stuff from which
slower.
It's slower and it's more
tedious.
It expends more energy.
Yes.
And it's the opposite of laziness in some sense. And what really happens in the brain when you take all these psychedelics or mind altering substances is just that all of these brain centers sort of get integrated. It's not just that your hippocampus is going offline, right? So the way I now see it is your mind and your body systems, it just learns to talk way, way, way better. It's not just
That's
one
what
is
I
going
do.
offline or online. It's just
Yes.
that, okay, now usually it's like, okay, mind system, body system. Okay, I'll do this. I'll do this, which reminds me of the movie Inside Out.
Yeah.
It's a really amazing movie.
Yeah.
It kind of talks
Yeah.
a little bit about
Sure,
this.
it's a simplistic,
Simplicity.
reduction of it, of course. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good metaphor. Yeah.
And then when you're on these substances, it's like that on what do you call steroids.
Yeah.
And
Right.
then everything is like in more of a harmony.
Mm.
It's not like your mind system goes, like the way I see it is like it's more of integration and harmony rather than one system going offline. It's like, oh yeah, I'll do this now, I'll do this now. Everything is happening in a more harmonious way, faster.
Yeah, I see it that way. I think we were talking a little bit about, when I was younger, I was actually quite good at sports. I think mainly because I was able to ignore my body systems. It's like to train to get good at something, you have to kind of overcome pain, and
Yeah.
it's the mind systems, the body's telling you, please stop, I'm going to die, I can't breathe. It wants to stop, but your mind is overriding it and saying, no, keep going, and that makes you better at certain things. But a lot of people describe their lives as a way of that could be seen as a form of self-sabotage, right? A lot of people say that they get close to doing something and then somehow they kind of self-sabotage themselves, and that to me seems like different parts of you aren't communicating, so they're rebelling. Like, if you and through psychedelics I found a way to communicate between my mind systems and my body system to tell, like, if you're going to do something very unpleasant with your body, I find that it's better to talk to it before you do it rather than just imposing pain. If you impose pain on a system with an explanation in advance, it's easier to take and it's much more effective. And you'll actually be a better athlete in this particular example, for example, if you were to communicate with your body rather than being like a slave driver, telling it to do something.
Can you like give a more example basis of this?
Um, yeah, like if you, the simple example of training, let's say if you're going to run 10 kilometers every morning and you don't want to do it and it's painful, your body naturally reacts to the discomfort and says it would rather go back to sleep, right? But your mind overrides that and gets up and pushes you. But what the body might do if you're not sufficiently paying attention to it is that later on in the day it might not want to get up at all, and it might make you sleepy. It might you might respond in certain ways that are not going according to what your mind system wants, because it's not cooperating, because you're not cooperating with your, when I say your mind systems, which is what we mostly mistake ourselves as being, is not communicating to the body. If even I mean, I haven't done research on this, but my intuition is that even if you were to just verbally talk to it and say, hey, I'm going to do this now, it sounds silly, like it's a silly thing to do, but I feel like that might work. Like, this is going to be painful, we're going to get up in the morning, we're going to run, we're going to do this, but it's going to pay off, because in the end you're going to feel really good, you're going to have these endorphins, and then we're going to be stronger and we're going to be able to do this. I feel like if we say that, that's going to have a better effect. You're going to have a better training session, for example, because you're communicating the two.
That is powerful.
Yeah,
I see the value in that now. That's amazing.
I'm not saying that I put this into practice, but, and this is part of the reason I want to start a cult, is because I need some kind of outside structured force to kind of, compel me, in a sense,
right,
to do something that I know is good for me. It's like having, how I said the body doesn't feel like doing something, but the mind systems is kind of like a layer above that says, well, this is why it's actually good. I guess I'm looking for another social system that then tells my mind system that my body system should do this. Do you know what I mean? So that's why people, joining a religion, for example, it's like a larger entity structures the behavior of the individual, which structures the behavior of their bodies to do things. But I've never felt compelled to join any religion or group, or I'm kind of I don't know, maybe I was a bit of a misanthrope, but like I didn't really, I felt like being alone and thinking for myself was much more interesting to me than going out and doing things with people. But then I realized that that's not true. Like even if your mind thinks you don't want to see people and do things, your body does, and it will find a way to be with other people, even if it's like some kind of bullshit reason. I'm going to join my engineering group and we're going to talk about chips, but really you're hanging out with people in a room. That's why you're doing it. That's where a lot of the pleasure is coming from, but it's not acknowledging that actually.
Uh, Something I got to add to that is like being born and brought up
Mm-hmm.
in India,
Mm.
Eastern culture, and I came here. It's almost been a decade now, I guess.
Mm.
This is Western culture, as we know, is more individualistic culture, right?
Mm.
So versus if you go back into Asia or whatever, it's more community based culture.
Right.
And I've witnessed both of these,
Mm.
and both have their pros and
Yeah,
cons.
absolutely. There's no right way to do it. Yeah, it's
Now,
contextually dependent. Yeah.
what I actually come into conclusion with is you need a bit of both,
Mm-hmm.
because you've seen this. Even if you look at history, a lot of where the original ideas are born are when people are alone.
Yeah.
But we are a community being. Like a human being would not exist alone. There is something called
No.
the pencil problem. If you
Mm.
give a pencil to someone and then say you make this pencil,
Good luck.
there's not even one person alive on this earth who can make a pencil from scratch,
Sure. Yeah.
which means
Mhm.
how closely we're all tied to each other.
It's incredible. Yeah, we're hyper connected.
Hyper connected,
Yeah.
which means
Mm.
how we've evolved us ourselves collectively and how
Mhm.
we cannot survive alone, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's just how it is, and that's how I feel like a bit of both is required
Mm-hmm.
for any community to flourish in that matter.
Yes. I mean, it's just factually true if you want to just be, rationalist about it, that you can do studies if you want to. You can have collections of people put together, and you find that people that do things together are generally happier, more able to be successful in whatever else they're doing. And we find a way to do it. And sometimes, even it presents itself in troubling ways sometimes too. Like if someone is completely disconnected from their bodies, doesn't acknowledge it, but the body still wants to touch other bodies, and that sometimes presents itself as violence, or some kind of, lashing out, because the body's like, I gotta, it just finds a way to connect to people, even if it's in a violent argument or a fight. Some people are picking fights because they're just looking for companionship. You know what I mean? It's the body's looking for companionship. The mind doesn't know how to deal with it, so it just goes out and picks fights. It's just a way to be intense with somebody. That happens too.
There is in when people try to be try to when people try to go with one direction in life,
Mm-hmm.
there is a hack that some people do, which kind of goes hand in hand with what you just said. It's like having a buddy
Mm.
who's there. Like, okay, let's say I want to set a goal to read a book for 1 hour, right?
Mm. Yeah.
And you set a call with him, and then just be there. Just
Mm.
that presence of him being there,
It has an effect for
it
sure.
keeps you disciplined
Yeah.
in your higher version,
Mm-hmm.
the higher version of you, which wants, it happens in our minds.
Mm-hmm.
We always have these all different two types of thoughts. Okay, I want to build a cult,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then there's 10 days. I'm pretty sure that in 10 days you're like, I'm pretty confident. Out of those, in those 10 days, 9
Mhm.
days, you're like, I want to do this thing. It makes sense
Yeah.
of what this world, it makes sense in this world that I've been brought into. But
Yeah.
on that one day,
Mm.
you're like, you'll have that imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
You'll be like, you'll doubt yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when all these external systems come in, and that kind of propels us to the most genuine identity that we carry within ourselves.
Mm-hmm. A genuine identity. Yeah, that's see the individual and how it fits in with a group of people. I've been kind of suspect of that most of my life. I don't like being in large crowds, for example, when everyone's kind of getting worked up about something or like a sports kind of thing. It kind of I don't like that feeling. It feels like you people are losing their sense of self, which they are, and becoming kind of a larger entity. And I don't like that feeling because it is dangerous, because that larger entity can be controlled by a nefarious leader, for example, right? And there are some people that do this consciously, right? They can enact or trigger this group effect, which is built in us. Like we like to be, a lot of people do like to be in groups. And then when you get in a group, something happens where you kind of switch into a group mode. It's a different consciousness almost formed. Just like the beehive is a different behavior than the bee. And that beehive, it's kind of a dangerous fascistic place, right? Because you've seen it abused in religious settings and political settings, and cults are a great example of that, where it's abused. So that's kind of dangerous, but it's so important. It's so important to have that connected with other humans, as long as there's not some dick that is kind of abusing that by controlling it in a way
Yeah.
for the benefit of that other group or other person. So this is the idea of starting a fake cult, is that, we want the value of group cohesion and doing things together and having a larger consciousness. Like, surrender, but don't give yourself away.
Yeah.
Which was that song from the
Right.
70s. Surrender, but don't give yourself away. There's value in surrendering. Problem is, people take it too far and they give themselves away. And this is where you have that nefarious cults and religions and political organizations that just use the individual for their own benefits, which I don't like at all, even though it starts from something that we should have.
You've struck on something really important. Even if it's like, when you think of it politically, like being left or right, uh, why do you have to submit yourself to something that's like black and white? Whether if you're a conservative or a liberal, okay, you have to be if you have to be a liberal, you have to live by these set of rules, and then if you have to be a conservative, you have to live by these set of rules.
Yeah,
Versus in reality, a good answer or a good solution that we are all trying to come by might be a mix of both.
that's right. Yeah, it's just,
There's
yeah,
no black and white in this.
right.
Might be gray.
Yes, yes, there is no black and white in anything. I mean, I'm wearing gray. Everything is gray if you kind of dig into it. But the thing is, and this is our primate bodies, we've evolved to prefer simplistic explanations, to prefer obvious explanations, to prefer the first stab at it, because it served us well. It doesn't always work. See, this is the thing again. It's not like it's always good or it's always bad. That's served us well, that proclivity to respond in that way. But when it gets to intricate and difficult problems, it's not always the best response. Sometimes the second or third, or after thinking about it for 3 hours, is a better response. It's not either or, which is the trap that everyone falls into. And that's why we get into this, delineated left, right, wrong, black and white, good and evil. It's not like that.
By the way,
Mhm.
fake cult.
Yes.
What a out of the box idea, man.
I know it is.
It's something absurd in an absurd life.
Yeah, which makes it kind of hard to launch because it's hard to explain, So it's taken me a few years of kind of just ruminating and thinking about it. And it was during COVID. It's like, how do you even get this off the ground without sounding like I'm some kind of a jerk that wants a cult? It's not, it's more the opposite. It's like, it's more of a warning about cults, but understanding and accepting the value of togetherness, especially in this current cultural and social and political environment we have. A lot of people don't have friends. They're not spending time with other people. They're they're looking at their screens most of the time, thinking, they're with others. They're with other entities, but it's not the same as your body being in another room with another body. There are all these other frequencies and layers and communications that are going on that you're missing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the idea of a cult is like, you look at it and you think, those people look like they're having fun. It's too bad a lot of them are, deluded and lied to and manipulated and robbed. But if you can remove that element of it, just the idea of bringing people together and playing those games, and also, you know, noticing that there are values and rituals that I wouldn't have accepted until recently. That I realized that there's purpose for it. That's why we have rituals. But again, we don't want to just follow them blindly. I
Right.
don't want to do that. I'd like to set up my own ritual systems that I know are going to benefit me and the people that I do it with. So in starting a cult, let's design our own rituals. You know, simple ones, nothing too demanding. Maybe like to wake up and do 3 things in the morning. You know, that will be good for your body, good for your mind, good for your place in the universe and with others. But in doing it transparently, knowing that, sure, it's kind of silly. There was that character on Saturday Night Live, Stu Smiley, whatever his name was. But you know, you look in a mirror and every day give words of affirmation. It's silly. It's ridiculous, and we laugh at the guy. But it actually probably works, right? If you say things that are positive to yourself, it does work. And having that transparent knowledge that rituals will lead to benefits, we can choose to do those rituals ourselves without being, you know, too demanding or too painful, or just the fact that, you know, if you take a sugar gummy with the intention that this is going to give me more confidence, it'll probably give you more confidence. The placebo effect works,
Yeah.
even when you know it's just a sugar gummy, right? It's going to probably work. So knowing that, and you know, starting a cult to do these things seems like a fun thing to do, and it'll probably have positive effects for the people involved.
So starting your life as a philosopher or having in a philosophy major,
Mm-hmm.
and then venturing out into business,
Mm-hmm.
and then securing yourself financially, whatever that means,
Mm-hmm.
and then now you go on this absurd journey.
Yeah.
uh, so what is your thinking, like, how did you arrive here?
Hmm.
What's the point of it?
To be honest, this kind of silly, absurdist art project is the kind of thing that I've always wanted to do. Things like that. It's just the other things were kind of detours. Well, philosophy was it's very foundational for me as well, because it's simply just trying to figure out what's going on, right? That's just there. It's always going to be there. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And then when you have while you're doing that, you apply your understanding to create something. And I've always been drawn to the weird, the funny, the absurd kind of art project. And I did this one man show at Fringe, which you were kind enough to view as an audience. And that's kind of what it was highlighting, is that I kept delaying being an artist because I couldn't quite decide, you know, what media it's even going to be in. Is it going to be music? Is it going to be writing, filmmaking? I went off on all these branches, and this is kind of like the megalomaniacal approach to it all. It's like, I want to do an art project that's kind of like it's a game, but it's an art project, but it's a business, and it's actually it's a social club. It's all of these things. It's a religion. It's a cult. How do you do all that together? Fake cult seemed like a way to bring it all together, and also not over designing it in advance. In fact, we're going to have our first super secret cult meeting tonight. Is that it's kind of like a writer's room. You know, people get together, come up with ideas and how we're going to design it, and build it ourselves. And as we're doing that, I'm actually going to give away shares in the entity, which is Fake Cult Industries. So it's a real corporation with real assets, including this building and the front businesses that are getting off the ground as well. As people participate in it, they're going to collect shares in the business. So I'm essentially prepared to give away up to 90% of this corporation over the next 5 to 7 years.
Wow.
So it's a cult that's owned by the cult members,
That is open,
which is bizarre, but yeah.
open and not behind curtains.
Right. Totally transparent. Can you do that? I mean, it's an experiment in that sense too. I don't know. I don't know if no one's ever tried that. I don't know.
So as a
Maybe we,
as,
yeah.
as a person who's went through a nihilistic phase of your life,
Mm,
who's thought and who's used your mind systems a lot, and you try to
Yeah.
you try to think your way out of situations, and then you've
Yes.
seen this world in all its absurdity,
Yeah.
and then you were smart enough to get yourselves wealthy
Mm.
in a societal terms.
Right. Yes.
Which makes me think of this something called there's something called the Maslow's law of hierarchy,
Right.
right?
Yes. Hmm.
It's kind of how the scientist guy analyzed how a self-conscious being will naturally try to evolve itself in a world,
Hmm.
which I think you're
Yeah.
a really good example of that.
Yes, but I was impatient. But I, I wanted to be an artist of a grandiose sort, like. But I didn't want to be a starving artist. So
Yeah.
and be coming from the family that I did, it just seems to be bred in our bone, this entrepreneurialism, and I've always been drawn to it. So I thought, well, I'll make some money first, and then I can do whatever art I want. I don't have to deal with anything, which I did that. I did for about 5 or 6 years. I started up some tech companies while I was doing my PhD, and I had to actually drop my PhD and didn't finish it because I got so involved with the businesses. Um, and everything was going real well. And on paper, I'm worth a lot of money at that point. But then the dot-com crash pretty much happens, and pretty much went back to zero again. It's like, did I waste my life? So I just basically just retired at that point. Not zero, but I mean, it's like I didn't become a multi-hundred millionaire at that time, but I said, this is enough. I'm gonna stop. So I was 33 years old, and I said, I don't need to work anymore. But I would do a few things. I bought some building. I would buy a house and fix it up or do something that was fun, and that kind of sustained me. And but it took about 10 years, even though I had the means to do it. I was kind of burned out. It took me about a decade of just not doing much, just coming back to myself. And it was around that time that I think, as I said, the psychedelics, I started getting into that, and yoga was very helpful too. And I started coming back, becoming more creative. And in fact, I even late in life, in my 50s, I met a woman, fell in love, and I had a baby. Now I have a 6-year-old daughter, which is quite a transformation of my life. And for most of my life, I always thought that having a family would get in the way
Hmm.
of doing the things I want to do and having this artistic life. So I kind of kept avoiding it and delaying. Even though I had long-term relationships with women, I just never took the extra step of getting married and going forward. But oddly, strangely, since I have this new situation where I'm living in the suburbs, I have a wife and a child. I'm more creative than, like, I'm actually doing it finally. I'm finally doing this giant art project.
You,
It didn't get in the way,
yeah,
is the short story there.
you feel like you said 10 years
Mm.
you were in some sense disconnected,
Mm-hmm.
and you are not getting what you wanted out of life. Just for the audience, so Maslow's law of hierarchy is any animal. So when you start coming out in a universe, first you satisfy your basic needs: food, shelter, clothing,
Right.
and then you go for respect, money, all that, and make sure that you have ample.
Mm-hmm.
And then like Will Smith recently said something about this. It's like there's rock bottom and then there's cliff top. What do you do after when you reach cliff top?
Yeah.
It's a really good question.
Mm-hmm.
And then you really kind of plowed through it,
Yeah.
and now I see yourself
Yeah.
more connected,
Yeah.
more vibrant,
Mm.
more lively,
Mm.
and in that sense, coming out as a creative
Mhm.
entrepreneur.
Yeah.
um, how do you feel about that, starting your new cult, bringing out this new thing that's never been seen in this world?
Yeah.
Right.
It is kind of like a coming out story. And I kind of joke that it took until my father died for me to come out as an artist, because it's kind of and also it took me a while to accept the fact that business is something that well, first of all, that I'm pretty good at, and can be also artful. And the reason that I've been so drawn to starting businesses is very much like art projects. It's the same joy of thinking about something that would fit the world in a certain way, and creating it and getting people interested in it and getting it started, and investing the time and effort to get it off the ground. And once it starts working and sustaining itself and people are experiencing it, you've created an art project that you've put out into the world. And I guess I was always kind of snobby against business. It's like, the art world or the academic world that I was in would might look down at business as being some kind of a base pursuit rather than some higher pursuit. But I now accept it, that it's also a form of art. It can be just as artful, and I'm enjoying it and I'm creating this fake cult as it's a game, it's an art piece, but it's also a business. So it's art, business, and spirituality all in one. Yeah.
You know that something that came into my conscience recently is that, like, what are artists, right? So this definition really blew my mind. It's like an artist, the role of an artist in a healthy society is to give people new ways of living
Mm.
that they've not been used to before. We,
Mm-hmm.
we all have these systems which we're trying to, which is anything, whether be it political, be it marriage, be it friendship, be it your social circle. All these are systems that we try to build so that we can live and have a better experience here,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And the role of healthy art in
Mm.
any community or society is to bring out new ways of harmonious living
Mm-hmm.
that is not entered the collective conscious yet.
No. Yeah, and people have a very limited sense of what art can be, and is it a painting on a wall? I mean, there's it's not just that.
It's
Yeah.
freedom and harmony. I love
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And what you are doing
Mm.
ticks all those boxes. That's why
Yeah.
I loved your project.
Yeah, it's it's a little, maybe it's a little grandiose, but yeah, I think it's got to be that way. And also the timing of it is that we are kind of going through an apocalypse right now, in a sense. Not only is everybody waking up to this nihilistic sense of what the universe is really like, but they're also realizing that there are a lot of crucial systems that are in jeopardy, like the climate systems, the political systems, the social systems, the ecological. Everything is about to hit a crucial breaking point. Plus, you have AI coming on board, and you have medical technologies and everything else that's going to just radically change everything. And to me, the sense of apocalypse is that moment when things are revealed. That's why, the revelation. The idea is that apocalypse is when everything is revealed to be what it actually was, and it becomes kind of a disturbing. The veil is lifted. And
The
that's what's
shock.
happening. Yeah, the veil is being lifted. People are waking up to this, and it's going to change everything. And I mean, what's employment going to be like? We're living conditions. Maybe the idea of having a compound, which I'm about to buy in rural Hamilton, Ancaster area, have a compound where we could use for retreats for now. Like, assuming society doesn't collapse, we can just keep using it as a retreat where people come for meditation retreats, silent retreats, comedy retreats, whatever, workshops, that sort of thing. Keep it like a business where we're actually maybe even making a lot of money doing that. But if the shit does hit the fan, then you have a compound where there's like natural water source. You can grow some food. Who knows? It might be useful. It's kind of like a hedging your bets a little bit.
Yeah, I think
Mm.
we landed on something really powerful there.
Mm.
Like, it's sort of, you can actually, like, you pointed to something that is actually happening in the society right now. If you really genuinely talk to someone, they will start talking about the absurdity and the nonsense of
Yeah.
how society is going through right now.
Yeah.
Instead of all the outer layer people put out to the
Yes.
world, if
Hmm.
you really start talking to them,
They
uh,
want to talk about it. They just don't have much opportunity, and they're not sure other people are interested in it.
see,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's where all these creative endeavors
Mm-hmm.
and bringing people together
Yeah.
has really has value, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've noticed that this space. It's been about a year and a half now, and I mean, a community has been built around it. There are people that come in, and this is their third space from work and home, and this is the place that they hang out. And whether you try or not, a community is going to form around the place where people are doing creative things. And it's been a great value to me as well. I mean, I feel very happy about it all.
Wonderful, man. Wonderful. I think that's a really good spot to land our plane here today,
Great.
because I think we landed in something powerful. To any person who's listening to this, if you are a wannabe creative, and if you sort of feel that meaninglessness in life, creativity, I think, from his experience, from what I understand now, is the way to go. And if you are that sort of person who wants to express and show your mind, or whatever you want to call it, to the world, be in that community. And Jake
Yeah.
is here. If you're around Ontario, Hamilton, Jake is here. Be part of the community and
Fakecult.com.
fake cults.
You could join the game.
Join the game.